This gospel reading, which we have today, comes from the 7th chapter in the book of Luke. And interestingly, the story of Jesus raising this man from the dead is found only in Luke's gospel. And this compassionate Jesus is very consistent with the image of Jesus which appears in the Gospel of Luke. I mean, the Good Samaritan, the prodigal son, Jesus forgiving the thief, all found only in Luke's Gospel. So there are many, many stories in the Gospel of Luke that speak to us about the character of compassion and the kindness and the patience and forgiveness of Jesus. Many more stories along those lines than you will find in the other Gospels. The setting is a town called Nain, which is a very lively town even today, and it's very near Nazareth, which is in the upper region of Israel in the area of Galilee. That's some background on the Gospel text. When you come to homiletics, the challenge of the moment is to bring the gospel to life now in the present moment, to make it somewhat meaningful to us, to enrich us, and to sanctify the journey of this day. Let me take a look at this by way of setting a framework for our reflection on the gospel. This book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, many of you, I'm sure, have read this. It was a bestseller about 10 years ago. And people have encouraged me to read on Kindle, but I have resisted that, since if a book qualifies for me to finish it, I make many notes on the book and it becomes my friend. The book is my friend. It speaks to me over and over again. It challenges me. It calls me to think a second time. So I'm inclined to not have my friends in cyberspace. I like my friends to be around me. So I took this book down from my library last night, and I noticed I read it in January 2003. And by way of an introduction, I wrote this: a new year with new grace, new invitations to wonder, new possibilities, promises newly fulfilled, new life and wisdom drawn from new failures, and the abundance of God's love, ever ancient, ever new. And I have annotated it's written in Alisol up in Solvang. I must have been up there after the new year. At the end of the book, when I finished it, I wrote, Lord, allow me the grace to live in the now. It is your presence and your life. Rest there, my soul. Every moment is a gift and a grace. Limitations are not defects. They are a sacred part of creation in me. Invitations to grace, divine life in the humanity of this moment. Praise be Jesus Christ, before me, behind me, within me, now. And this book is very interesting. Eckhart Tolle, the basic thesis he has in this book is that nothing happened to you in the past. Nothing. Nothing ever happened to you in the past. I know, but I had things that happened to me way back then. No. When it happened, you were there. So it only happens in the present. Nothing will happen in the future if you don't show up. We worry about, I'm 73, I worry about 20 years from now. Where am I going to be? Well, if I don't show up, I won't have to worry about it. So nothing happens to you in the future. Things only happen in the now, in the present moment. And the crisis, says Eckhart Tolle in his book, is that we have neglected the power of the present moment. Now, we can be enlightened by the past, and we can wisely plan for the future, but you must live in the present moment. Now, that's an ancient spiritual counsel. You'll find it in the Exercises of Ignatius. You'll find it in all spiritual counsels, and they called it the grace of the present moment. So how do you live in the present moment and find meaning, and how does this gospel reading which we have find a presence in the now to somehow speak to us about today? The story here in the gospel, Jesus comes to the town of Nain. And watch the powerful symbols which are here. The mother is leading out a procession for her dead son, and she's a widow. Jesus is moved with compassion. I began to wonder, why is he so moved with compassion for the widow? Could it be that his own mother was a widow? Since Joseph is not mentioned in the public life of Christ, the presumption is by then he was deceased. How would he understand the pain and the vulnerability of the widow? Perhaps through his own mother. She is going out through the city gates. The symbolism is powerful here. She is saddened because part of her has died. And Jesus, unsolicited, compassion must be unsolicited, can never be begged. Compassion cannot be purchased. Compassion comes from deep inside of us. And the Greek word that's used has to do with this visceral, splangizomai, has to do with something visceral, a deep part of who I am. I am moved to belong to you in this moment of sadness. He touches the coffin. It says the coffin here, the bier, the coffin, whatever. When he did that, he violated the law. He became unclean. Go back and read in the Torah, read in the Jewish scriptures, the fourth book of the Bible there, the book of Numbers, chapter 18, verse 11, and verses after that, about touching a dead body or being involved with a dead body makes you unclean. Therefore, the action of Jesus is, when he touches things that the law says are unclean, he makes them clean. It's the triumph of compassion over legal judgment. What we think is unclean, Jesus touches it. With compassion, with healing, he makes it clean. Doesn't matter what the law says, Jesus triumphs over the law. He brings the dead man back to life. What does this mean to us in the now? Who is it that's walking out of the city? Heavily burdened, sad, vulnerable. I thought about that. And I wondered to myself, have I ever sat down with people who are really vulnerable in our society, in our families, in our church? When did I sit down with a family broken and sad because the father of the family was undocumented and was deported? Before we make a judgment, should we sit down and feel the fear and the pain through compassion, splangizomai, from deep inside of us? Have you ever sat down and spoke to somebody, a young woman who is recovering from the anguish of making a decision about abortion? We're so hard in our judgments. We are so severe at times. And yet somebody sitting next to you when you come to Mass here on Sunday is carrying a heavy burden. Not too long ago, a couple came to see me in great travail. Their son just told them he was gay. And of course, in typical form, they begin by saying, well, that I don't mind. We're okay. We're fine with the gay people, but it's that partner. So they're stuck in this crisis. They're walking out of the city. And where is their church? Where are we? Or have you ever taken time to sit and listen to the anguish and the pain of a gay person struggling how to tell parents, how to be accepted, how to be given dignity in our beloved church? People in second marriages have been told that there isn't a place for them in the table of life. And I have seen very close up, even in my own family, the anguish, the pain of those who are separated somehow. Look at the front page of the bulletin this week. Could we begin to grasp the passion of a moment on Mother's Day when a child gets on the bus because volunteers at Holy Family so arranged it to go to a prison to visit her mother on Mother's Day? Could we grasp with compassion? How do we bring this gospel to life today? We talk about discipleship. We're disciples of Jesus Christ. Yes, we are disciples of Jesus Christ. And our call in mission as disciples is to carry and share the tears of God's wounded people now.